Hello everyone, thank you so much for clicking on today's video and welcome to my channel. In today's story, OP reaches out to Reddit to ask if she's the a-hole for completely backing out of her twin sister's wedding because of her sister's future in-laws. Honestly, the situation sounds so bad. Luckily, it does end on a positive note in the update, so stay tuned for that to find out. I do hope that you enjoyed this story. If you do, please leave a thumbs up. And before I move on to the story, I just wanted to take a second and thank all of my subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys are so wonderful. For those that are new here, if you do like my content, I would really appreciate it if you could click the subscribe button. Anyways, thank you so much for your time and on to the story. Am I the a-hole for pulling out of my sister's wedding due to her in-laws? For background, Stella and I are identical twins. We're both 29 years old and will turn 30 when her wedding takes place this fall. I had her as a maid of honor 8 years ago, and she promised that I could be hers when her wedding came around. I have 2 children, a 6-year-old girl and a 3-year-old girl. They will be the flower girls. My marriage fell apart just over 2 years ago due to a stillbirth and my husband's infidelity. My parents and sister were the only reason that I didn't drown from the stress, loneliness, and total abandonment of my spouse. I was a total mess. I went to therapy, got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and quit drinking. I owe a lot of it to my amazing sister. She's the reason why I kept chasing down my ex for child support when he suddenly stopped paying. He switched from the world's best dad to deadbeat dumbass so quickly that my ex-mother-in-law is disgusted with him. Stella and John, who's a 35-year-old male, got engaged last year. His parents are paying about 60% of the wedding, with our parents contributing about 30%, and the couple are paying for the rest themselves. The caveat is that they must be married in John's family church with a full mass and communion. Tonight, Stella had invited me to dinner as they had finally reserved a date for the church and the reception, and assuming that it was formally to ask me to be her maid of honor. John was with her, which was odd since Stella hadn't mentioned him coming at all in our text about the dinner. We hugged like usual, but John didn't hug me. After we got our drinks, they got to it. In a nutshell, John expressed the following. Despite my best efforts to keep it a secret, my parents found out you're divorced when they asked why your husband wasn't coming. They're no longer comfortable with you as maid of honor because it won't look good to the church if my family hears about the divorce. You can be a bridesmaid, but you can't mention the divorce or your conditions at all during the wedding events. I was stunned and I felt tears in my eyes. Stella started crying too, and she tried to spin it in a good way. She said, "This is way less stressful for you, so it's a good thing. My mother-in-law has already approved my best friend as my maid of honor, so please don't make this any harder." I knew that I couldn't possibly stay there through the entire meal. I had to process this new information alone. I didn't speak. I just paid for my expensive cocktail and left to order an Uber home. A few hours ago, I texted Stella that I would not be in her wedding party at all. That was my decision. I wouldn't pull my daughters out, but I would only attend as a guest. But Stella wouldn't take this as an answer, so I had to temporarily block her due to her excessive texts and call. I sent my parents a summary of what happened and promised to call them when I was in a better shape tomorrow. Stella thinks that this is a total overreaction. I don't even want to know what John thinks at this point. Please help me. Am I the a-hole? The overall judgment was not the a-hole, and OP added to their original post. They say, "Thank you for all of the responses. I half expected to be told to just put up with it and to be a plain bridesmaid, which, while difficult, I kind of would have forced myself to do just to make Stella happy. I was just so blindsided and I felt like I'd been gut punched, and I do appreciate being told if I'm overreacting in a big way sometimes. I'm going to fall asleep now while binging Friends, and wonder if my twin has suddenly become an Ursula instead of Phoebe." Opie then went on to add, Wow, I did not expect this to blow up. I can't thank everyone enough for their input. I have a call scheduled with my parents this afternoon. From what I gathered, they're extremely upset with Stella and John at the moment. Depending on how that goes, I will talk to my girls about doing something big and fun instead. The more I think about it, sitting through a mass sounds less and less appealing. I'm not even religious. And I saw this query in the comments. Yes, I had a mocktail, which is a non-alcoholic cocktail. When I asked for a list of mocktails last night, the server was a little condescending about it and said that they're still called cocktails if they're not alcoholic. OP then added in the comments, I keep seeing everyone think that I should pull out my daughters. However, I disagree. As I currently stand, I would be fine attending as a mere guest or a childminder to keep my daughters on track. It would actually make it easier not to have to bring a friend with me just as a part-time babysitter for the occasion. I will not let anyone in John's family talk down to my children. If I have any sort of inkling that such a thing would happen, only then would I pull them out as flower girls. This is too important to my daughters for me to pull them out altogether. They would be crushed if they were told that they can't go to the wedding anymore. This is going to be a brief update. John found the post as he lurked on Reddit and shared it with Stella. I wish I had used the fake name Ursula since she joked about the detail herself. Stella Ursula has officially called off the wedding. When John was ranting about the post and how bad the comments were painting him, he said that your sister must be off her gosh darn meds and going manic. You better get her butt under control. But then Ursula actually came undone on him and began calling out everything that John and his family had put her through. Then she took off the ring and threw it across the living room. John went into a rage, and while he didn't do anything but yell at her, he threatened her in regards to her mobility issues. Ursula uses a cane to walk. This was what triggered her to text our parents and myself. By the time our parents made it to the house, John was gone and she had packed up her bags and left with them. Her cane was not in the house. Ursula wanted to thank you all for the comments calling her out. It shattered the mosaic that John had built around them. And while we're both still raw and processing the last couple of days, I am glad to have my sister back. She was someone I hardly recognized a few days ago. As kids, I was more outgoing and she was more reserved, so I felt obliged to go along with her the other night, despite how conflicted I felt. But again, Ursula says thank you for the wake-up call. And John, if you're seeing this, F you. And then OP went on to add, you know what, Keith? F you. So guys, what did you think about this? Oh my goodness, it isn't clearly stated here, but I do think that it's implied that John or Keith, whatever his name is, took away the sister's cane. Like, what on earth? That has to be some effed up shit. Why would you do that? Oh my god. I am so happy that Stella got out of that situation, and I know that they're going through a tough time right now, but I wish them the best. I wish OP the best, and I'm so glad that she was able to get out of it before they got married and before the situation got very complicated, because I really have a strong feeling that the husband and the in-laws would have opposed a divorce if the wedding had gone through. Anyways, what did you guys think about this? I would be really interested in knowing. Please let me know in the comments down below. If you did like the story, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories from Reddit with updates.